Today on Cook's Country, Bryan visits Tucson, Arizona, and shares his version of Quesabirria Tacos. I trace the origins of the birria craze in the U.S., and Ashley makes Julia Sopa Seca. That's all right here on Cook's Country.
The influence of Sonoran Mexican culture is embedded in everything you find in Tucson, especially the food. I arrived with two goals: eat some really good Mexican food,
Really good.
and learn how to make birria, a chili and spice braised beef dish. To meet that first goal, I headed straight to South 12th Avenue, which is known as the best 23 miles of Mexican food in the U.S. Here you'll find restaurants that have been in business since the 1920s, situated alongside more modern places.
It's like the Tucson cuisine, you know, like we got the flat enchiladas, we got the nanas tacos, we got the flautas, but everybody puts their own little spin to them.
It's that ingenuity that's at the heart of Tucson's food culture. And I'm here to meet one of its finest practitioners, Chef Mateo Otero.
So now we're doing our birria rojos, AKA quesabirrias.
Mateo is a fifth-generation Tucsonan and owner of Roly's Mexican Patio.
I started cooking since I was 5 years old. My tata was the chef here in Tucson. He used to take me to work with him, and I remember just seeing him melt butter. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and right then I really knew I wanted to be a chef.
Chef Mateo cut his culinary teeth in the catering business before opening Roly's in 2017.
People were saying, hey, you need to open up a restaurant. So I found something small, and this was it right here. And from there, just opened up shop, and it's been success.
Roly's Mexican Patio is known for their rolled fried tacos. But recently, their birria has been getting a lot of attention. Birria originated in Jalisco, Mexico, where it is traditionally made with goat. But in Tucson, birria is made with beef. The dish starts with an aromatic spice rub.
It's just a little cinnamon, just a pinch, just a pinch.
Then it's cooked with tomatoes, garlic, chilies, and a blend of spices.
So what are the types of chilies that you added there?
So right here we have pasilla chilies and guajillo chilies, New Mexico.
Definitely withholding information the last time I was
Oh,
here.
and chili adobos.
After simmering on the stovetop, the broth and aromatics are blended. Then added back in with the meat to cook in the oven overnight for 16 hours.
I'm gonna skim the fat from the top, and I'm gonna put it back into the meat. And that's why it makes my birria extra special. I have the right ratio of fat and broth inside, back into the birria. Famous Roly sauce here.
Tell me about that sauce. What's up with it?
It's just our house sauce. It's a spicy mayo with different chilies in here as well.
Finally, it's time to try it for myself.
All right, where do you want to start?
So these are our birria rojo.
That's so good, man. You can really taste the warm spice in here. It's in there, but it's not overpowering.
Yeah.
The move where you put the mayonnaise in the taco, it really helps it feel more creamy, more cheesy.
Oh yeah, the fat. That's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
fat makes everything good.
Chef Mateo's food combines heritage with culinary creativity.
My aunt made rolled tacos like this, and she would call them drowning tacos. She'll put chicken broth on top of the rolled tacos,
Really?
and garnish it with lettuce, pickled onions, and queso fresco. And I always thought that was super cool because we're just used to eating the rolled taco by itself.
Yeah.
She put that spin into it, and that's what made me think outside the box.
Really?
Like just seeing her think outside the box made me want to think outside the box.
Many of his dishes begin with a childhood memory and evolve as he adds his own spin. This is what the food of Tucson means to him. There's room for both tradition and fresh interpretations.
It's definitely about family and tradition and celebration. I just feel like keeping traditional how you grew up eating it, but pass on to the next generation. Allow them to put in their little twist to it.
Well, it looks like you have a really hard job.
It's tough. I ruined 2 t-shirts on that trip.
That's something, but did you put your own twist is what I want to know.
You know what? I learned a lot from Mateo, and so I came back with my version of birria that was based on what he showed me.
Okay.
We'll get more into that later, but what we could all agree is that birria starts with the chilies. So what we're going to use here is about 1.5 ounces of guajillo chilies. We want to start off by removing the stems and a good bit of the seeds. You don't have to be super critical about removing the seeds because yes, they'll give a little bit more heat, but guajillo chilies are generally pretty mild, and we're gonna strain all this later on, so they'll all come out.
Yeah, they have a really nice fruity flavor to them.
Yeah, they're fantastic chili. So birria is one of those things that everybody has their own spin on. And I met Mateo a couple of times. And the first time he shared with me his recipe, it was only guajillo chilies. The second time I met him, he added 2 more chilies to it. So he added Patio, New Mexico chilies. And so this is, like I said, this is your baseline birria. It's still a very good birria, but you can have fun. You can riff on this. Everybody has their own blend of chilies they put into this.
You think he was hiding them from you the first time?
Totally was hiding. He even joked he wasn't going to share his whole recipe with me, All right, so we're just going to stem and seed these. Drop those into our pot. And then we are going to talk about beef. So this is a 3.5 pound chuck roast here. And you could also use short ribs or boneless short ribs if you have those. We like chuck because it braises up really well and it's got a good bit of fat on it. And we want to keep all that fat on here because the fat is going to be used later on in the recipe. So we want to cut this into 2.5, 3-inch chunks that will braise nicely. Okay, and we'll just drop them into the pot. All right, so now we're ready to add the rest of our ingredients to the beef and our chilies. So we have 1 onion that's been quartered, 8 garlic cloves that have been peeled, 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. Again, we want to use the fat that comes out of this braise right here, and there's not quite enough fat for our purposes. We want to produce a little extra, so we're adding a little extra oil there.
I'm loving this recipe more and more.
And then 2 tablespoons of paprika. Now Mateo used a local chili powder that he gets there in Tucson. We didn't have access to that, but what we were looking for is that kind of astringency that paprika gives you on the sides of the mouth. It's similar to this mild chili he was using. Yeah.
Yep.
4 teaspoons of onion powder, 4 teaspoons of granulated garlic, 4 teaspoons table salt, a tablespoon of Mexican oregano. Now, Mexican oregano has a slightly different flavor than Greek or Mediterranean oregano. It's got more of a lemony, citrusy, licorice flavor, whereas Greek tends to have a bittersweet, peppery note to it. We have a tablespoon of ground coriander, 2 teaspoons of black pepper, and a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And then finally, 4 bay leaves. And we're gonna add 2 quarts of water to that. So we're going to bring this to a boil over high heat. Once it comes to a boil, we'll put a lid on it, reduce the heat to medium-low, and let it simmer until the beef is tender, and it takes anywhere between 2.5 and 3 hours.
Move over, Kylie Jenner. There's a new Instagram star in town, and this time, it's a taco. #Birria was first used on TikTok in 2018, and from there, the dish spread like wildfire on social media, and it's easy to see why. The bright red tacos dunked in a luscious consommé broth are incredibly photogenic. Most people trace the beginning of the birria craze in the U.S. to 2 taco trucks in Los Angeles. Birria Gonzalez was opened by brothers Oscar and Omar Gonzalez in 2015. The following year, their friend Teddy Vasquez opened Teddy's Red Tacos. Both operations began informally. Oscar started selling his birria from a stand in the driveway, and Teddy sold his out of the trunk of his car. Before long, they had a following, and although they set off a trend, they didn't invent birria. The dish has origins in the Mexican state of Jalisco, where it was traditionally made with goat or beef. A man named Don Guadalupe Zarate created the style of birria that's popular in Tijuana today. That Tijuana version is what inspired LA's birria makers. At Cook's Country, we found an outstanding birria in another community near the Mexican border, Tucson.
Love what you're watching? Take your cooking to the next level with our Essential membership. Get instant access to thousands of recipes, tips, techniques, product reviews, and step-by-step videos. Our Members app allows you to search by ingredient, set dietary preferences, and save your favorite recipes. For those looking to level up, our newest feature, ATK Classes, offers more in-depth instruction led by ATK experts, so you can gain greater confidence in the kitchen. Start your free trial by visiting the App Store or going to americastestkitchen.com/YouTube today.
Our beef has been cooking for 2.5 hours. It's nice and tender. And after it was done cooking, we let it sit for 30 minutes without stirring it. You smell that chili, that little hint of cinnamon coming through?
Wave of aromas there.
Yeah. We let it sit because we wanted the fat to separate from the rest of the cooking liquid. And we're just gonna ladle some of that fat off as much as possible. And the way you do this is you kind of just press the bottom of the ladle into the liquid until nothing but the fat spills over the edge. And I like to put it into a nice shallow dish. You can put it into a bowl if you like. We're gonna dredge our tortillas in this fat before we fry them later. And now we're gonna remove the beef from the broth here. And the spider skimmer is really a nice tool for that. We wanna just make sure we're getting the beef and not all the onion and the chilies, because we wanna puree the onions and the chilies together in the broth. And now we're gonna shred our beef. And for that, I'm famous for using the potato masher to shred the meat. So just kind of mash it up. You could do this with your hands or with a pair of tongs, but I find the potato masher works really well. And so since we didn't trim the beef ahead of time, if you see any big gnarly pieces of fat like this that didn't melt away, you could just pull them out at this point. We're gonna use an immersion blender to puree the rest of our broth here. But if you don't have an immersion blender, there's instructions for using a regular jar blender on our website. Okay, that looks pretty smooth. So now we're gonna strain this liquid through a fine mesh strainer set over a large saucepan here. We just wanna remove any of the big particles.
Especially things like bay leaves. It takes forever to break those things down.
All right, we're close to the end. Bridget, do you wanna just tip that into the strainer?
Be happy to help.
Perfect, thank you.
You bet.
We're gonna take 2 cups of this broth and add it to our meat. Just drop that right into the meat. So a lot of that meat flavor washes off into this cooking liquid. So we want to add all that chili flavor back to the meat. And it's okay if this is a little bit extra moist because it's going to make a nice, gooey, flavorful taco. I want to just taste it. Add some extra salt and pepper. Okay, so we have that seasoned, and that's good. We can just cover this with a little bit of aluminum foil. We're going to put a lid on it, put it over low heat to keep warm, and we'll clean up. Come back and make some tacos.
Nice.
It's time to make some tacos. We have our griddle that's been heating up over medium heat with a teaspoon of oil on it. We're just gonna wipe the oil away. We never like to preheat non-stick surfaces without a little bit of fat on them. We have some yellow corn tortillas here. We're gonna run them through our beef fat, nice and light. We're gonna drop them onto our griddle.
Nice.
So these are yellow corn tortillas. You could use white corn tortillas. I suppose you could use flour if you wanted to, but in Tucson I mostly saw corn tortillas. So we're gonna put about 1/4 cup of shredded mozzarella on top of each tortilla.
Mozzarella, huh?
Yeah, I've found mozzarella and Monterey Jack being used more often than any other type of Mexican cheese in Tucson, throughout Southern California. And this is block mozzarella, so it doesn't come coated with that starch that pre-shredded mozzarella comes with. And then we're gonna follow that with 1/4 cup of our beef. And I like to put the beef on the far side of the taco, so that way we could fold over it. All right, so we're looking for the cheese to just really start melting like it is all along the edges. I'd say one of the best parts of this is when some errant cheese gets off the edge here and starts to get all frico and crusty.
Yeah.
So delicious. So before we fold these in half, we're gonna add a little bit of red onion. Again, this is just to taste.
A little cilantro.
All right, so now we're ready to fold these in half. Using 2 spatulas is the best way. So hold it and fold it. Hold it still and kind of fold it in half. You see it's easier to fold over the meat than to try and flip the meat up the other way. So obviously because we have 2 burners going underneath this griddle, the temperature is going to vary from front to back. So if you see one getting a little bit more dark than the other, just flip-flop them, rotate them, move them around a little bit. And we want to cook these after they've been folded for 1 to 2 minutes until they get nice and crispy.
Oh, lovely.
All right, so these in the back, I think, are getting done. So this will be yours, Bridget.
All right.
To accompany the birria tacos, we have a little bit of the broth that we cook the meat in. This makes a good bit of broth. And at Roly's, they have the birria ramen, which is out of this world. We have that recipe on our website, and it's a great way to use up some of this extra broth and some of the extra meat you might have. Okay, one final flourish, cilantro on top of your birria broth there.
Lovely.
All right, so the way we eat these is we take our taco and you dunk it into the birria broth.
All right.
All right, go for it.
Oh my goodness.
I have a hard time stopping once I start eating these.
Loving that fried crunch on the outside. That's amazing. Breaking through there, that meat, of course, silky. Silky as anything. Super tender. Lovely blend of flavors in there. And it's not just the cinnamon, and it's not just the coriander. It's everything. It's that garlic in there.
Yeah. And those guajillo chilies have such a
guajillos.
distinct flavor, you know?
This is incredible. Bryan, these are wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing them with us.
You're so welcome.
Why don't you try making these tacos at home? It's super easy. And all you have to do is simmer beef chuck with aromatic spices until very tender. Stir some of the cooking broth back into the shredded meat and drag corn tortillas through the flavorful fat before cooking. So from Cook's Country, the excellent Quesabirria Tacos.
All right.
I still might have to go to Tucson though.
Love our in-depth reviews? Get the latest from our reviews team delivered straight to your inbox. Our well-equipped cook newsletter provides top product picks, no-nonsense buying guides, and must-try recipes. No extra fluff, just the smartest ways to shop, save, and cook. Sign up for free now at americastestkitchen.com/newsletter.
Sopa Seca is a classic skillet pasta dish made by toasting noodles, then cooking it in a rich tomatoey broth. Sometimes it's a little spicy, and topped with a bunch of garnishes like cilantro, avocado, and crema. And today, Ashley's going to show us how to make a version inspired by one of our colleagues, Jeanette Zepeda, who grew up in California to Mexican parents.
Yes, and her mom, Maria, is such a good cook. And so she grew up making this during the week. And Jeanette, when she was walking home from school, could even smell this being
Oh,
made. Yeah.
I love dishes like that you look forward to eating after school.
I know, it's pure comfort. Fideos are the main ingredient for this recipe. Now, what you will find in the grocery store are these small little strands. They're about 1 inch each. They're broken into those little pieces. Now, another type of fideos that are made are in the shape of coils, sort of like a little nest. You don't want to use this one for this specific recipe.
Okay, so these are out.
Those are out. Now, if you couldn't find this type of fideos, you could substitute thin spaghetti or angel hair and just go ahead and break that into small 1 inch pieces. So first step we're going to be doing is we're going to toast 8 ounces of fideos. I'm going to start by heating up 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil over medium heat until shimmering. And I'm going to toast them over medium-high heat for 4 to 5 minutes or so until deep golden brown but not burnt.
Okay.
And it's important just to go in here and stir every once in a while. And this is an important step because it's going to give us that really nice nutty flavor for the pasta.
Okay.
All right, now take a look at how deep golden these are.
They're gorgeous.
Yeah, they got really, really nice and toasty. And I mentioned that they're gonna get nutty in flavor, but it's also gonna help to keep the strands individual so they're not gonna get too stuck to each other.
Makes sense?
All right, so I'm gonna put these in this bowl. Now I'm gonna add a few other ingredients. First, I'm gonna add 1 more tablespoon of vegetable oil to the empty skillet. Put that back over medium-high heat. I've got 2 cloves of garlic that I peeled and smashed. I've got a whole onion that I chopped. And finally, I have 1 pound of Roma tomatoes that I cored and then quartered.
Wow.
Yep, and it's usually around 4 to 5 tomatoes.
Okay.
And I'm gonna let this cook just like so for about 8 to 10 minutes until the vegetables get nice and soft and start to release some of their liquid. A lot of recipes we found didn't take the step of pre-cooking the garlic and the onions and the tomatoes. And we found that some of those recipes had a raw bite to it. So just cooking them 8 to 10 minutes does a really nice job of taking all that away. All right, Julia, 8 to 10 minutes has passed, and you can see that the tomatoes are starting to release their liquid, and everything is softened. So I've cooked it until that point, and I'm gonna pull it off now and transfer everything into a blender.
That makes sense why you left everything in such big pieces.
Yes!
You're gonna let the blender do the chopping for you.
Exactly. I've got 2 cups of water that I'm just gonna add directly into here. And now I've got a few other ingredients. This is chicken bouillon powder.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a secret ingredient here. It's full of umami, a ton of savoriness. It really packs a lot of punch to the sauce. And it's 2 tablespoons total. If you can't find bouillon powder, simply substitute 2 to 3 bouillon cubes, smash them, and then just measure out 2 tablespoons. So I'm gonna add that directly into the blender.
That's gonna add a punch of flavor.
Now I've got 1 tablespoon, but you can go down to a half if you want, if you don't love spicy. It's canned chipotle and adobo sauce.
Nice.
I'm gonna add a lot of heat, but also some really nice smokiness. And 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, half a teaspoon salt, and a half a teaspoon of pepper. And I'm gonna process this for about 1 minute until smooth.
Okay.
All right. So we need 5 cups of liquid total because this liquid is going to be cooking the fideos.
Gotcha.
So I'm just going to pour that into this 8-cup liquid measure here. I'm going to take a look. How much do we have here? We have just shy of 5 cups. So I'm going to add just a little bit more water. And that is perfect. So now I'm going to transfer this to the skillet.
What a color.
I know.
That is gorgeous.
It really is. So now I'm gonna bring that up to a simmer over medium-high, and I'm gonna add the fideos in here in a single layer. All right, so this is at a simmer, Julia. I'm just gonna cover the skillet, reduce the heat to low, and let this cook for about 20 to 25 minutes. I'm gonna go in there every 5 minutes or so just to stir everything. That's gonna ensure that the fideos does not burn on the bottom or scorch, but you do want a few charred bits if you can get them.
Okay.
Take a look at this.
Ooh.
Yep, and the fideos are really nice and tender.
That sauce gets really thick.
It coats it really, really nicely. So I'm gonna take this off the heat.
Man, that was fast.
Yep. Can you smell? It's a little bit smoky.
You can. You can smell a little bit of chili in there.
Yep.
Oh.
This is what I want on any cool day. Avocado. I'm just gonna do a couple slices over the top.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And we've got queso fresco, the fresh farmer's cheese, some cilantro, and I've got a little Mexican crema. Yum. And finally, I've got some chicharron.
Oh. All right, I'm going all in.
So delicious.
There's a lot of flavor in that pasta.
Got it really nutty in flavor too from toasting it.
The sauce has a lot of flavor, but you did put the chipotle in there. There was some oregano. All that really builds a hearty sauce. It's almost on the line between a tomato sauce and a chili. It's like they merged.
Yeah, and that bouillon powder, it added a ton of savoriness here.
And the toppings with the cilantro and the crema.
So good.
This is delicious. Ashley, this is fabulous. Thank you for showing me how to make it.
You are welcome.
You want to make this incredibly easy weeknight dinner? Start by toasting the fideos until nicely golden. Make a fresh tomato sauce with chicken bouillon powder and simmer the fideos right in the sauce until tender. From Cook's Country, with special thanks to our colleague Jeanette, a great recipe for Sopa Seca. You can get this recipe and all the recipes from this season, along with select episodes and our product reviews at our website, cookscountry.com/TV. If you're ready to take your cooking to the next level, head over to americastestkitchen.com and get a free trial of our ATK Essential membership. While you're there, you can sign up for our free email newsletters and download our app. So, what are you waiting for?